Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. Alright, so it's time for me to once again talk about Dragon Ball. I'm a big Dragon Ball fan, but I've only done 2 videos on it, I think. I just haven't really had that many ideas for how to talk about it, and there are so many really good Dragon Ball channels out there. I just didn't really know what to add. But about last year, I did a video, or maybe it was beginning of this year. I did a video about the Moro Saga from Dragon Ball Super's manga and why I thought it was not that good. It was okay, but that video isn't one of my best, but I still stand by a lot of what I said. And I found it quite interesting that while most people love the Moro Saga, they think its follow-up, the Granolah Saga, was just okay. When in my opinion, it's the complete opposite. So I figured, why not do a review of what I think is Dragon Ball Super's very best saga. I know this does have some fans. There are some videos talking about how good it is. I mean, the few people I know who read Dragon Ball say this is one of the best. So I thought, why not give my 2 cents on it? Before we continue, I'd like to ask you guys all to check out my Letterboxd, which I'll have linked in the description. Without further ado, let's do it to it and dive on into what I consider to be the very best of Dragon Ball Super. You gotta begin the Granolah Saga by talking about the man himself, Granolah. When I first heard this arc's title, I hadn't gotten up to it yet because I think I first heard of it when it was announced and when it was started to be published in Japanese, and I'm sure not going to read a Japanese manga. I wait for English translations. And I wait for when the actual individual volumes come out. I don't read the chapters month to month. But when I heard the name Granolah, I was thinking, I wonder what that could be. And I would also assume that if it's called that, that would mean that Granolah is the villain. So to my surprise, Granolah is not the villain. Not at all. But I have to say, Granolah is one of the most interesting Dragon Ball characters in a long time. The first thing, well, one, I love how the Granolah Saga does tomorrow what the series hasn't done since Z, which is each arc feeds into each other. There isn't just one arc, here's another story, move on to the next arc. It's the remains of 7-3, some robot guy from the Moro Saga, get picked up by Granolah because he's some kind of space bounty hunter and he's going to sell them to these guys called the Heaters. Without the Moro Saga, this would not happen, which is some pretty good writing, because that's what Dragon Ball used to do. But I think probably my favorite part of Granolah's character is his backstory. The first thing we see about it is a bunch of Ozarus destroying a planet. And that gives us a big insight into the history of the Saiyans that we've always heard about, but we never actually got to see until this arc. We hear all the way back when Raditz appears that the Saiyans would conquer different planets and then sell them to the highest bidder. Well, here we actually got to see that happen once, where the Saiyans, under the rule of Frieza, of course, were destroying planet Cereal, or real clever, Toyotaro. Okay, on a side note, I know how it's a thing that in Toriyama's writings all his names are puns, but I think calling your character Granolah from the planet Cereal is a bit too on the nose. But anyway, so Granola's character is essentially he's the last of his species, a lot like how there aren't that many Saiyans left, which the arc goes into later, which I really appreciate. And how he spent many years as a space bounty hunter, usually working for these guys called the Heaters. And when he finds out that Frieza is alive, and that he's going, and he finds out about the Dragon Balls as well, he decides, hey, I'm going to use the Dragon Balls to make myself the universe's greatest warrior and defeat Frieza. Which, can I say it's just really funny that it took so long for someone to decide to use the Dragon Balls and just become invincible? Obviously, there are caveats too, as we find out soon, which is that he only has 3 years left to live because of how much power it took to make him the universe's strongest warrior. But that's just a really interesting but simple concept that I'm surprised it took so long for. Anyway, though, Granolah wants to kill Frieza, but when he finds out that there are a couple of Saiyans left, he decides, okay, first I'm going to destroy the Saiyan, then I'm going to destroy Frieza. And the Heaters, who are his bosses essentially, manipulate it into so that Goku and Vegeta will fight Granolah, and hopefully they'll just kill each other. And Granolah at first hates Goku and Vegeta for being Saiyans, but as Goku and Vegeta learn more about Granolah, they find out that not only were all three of them manipulated, but also that Granolah, much like them, is the last remnant of his species, of his race, and that he hated the Saiyans for what they did to his people, but a Saiyan saved him and his mother's life when he was just a child. And who is that Saiyan? Well, that Saiyan would be none other than Bardock, the father of Goku. I was definitely surprised when I first read this, because while we have learned a bit about Bardock in the past, it's pretty straightforward stuff. It's as simple as Bardock was a low-class Saiyan warrior who predicted that Frieza would want to destroy planet Vegeta, so he went to face Frieza in the planet's final moments. And so when Frieza sees Goku for the first time, he's thinking, hey, he looks just like that Saiyan who confronted me right before I destroyed planet Vegeta. I mean, we see a bit more of him in the Broly movie in the beginning, but we still don't get that much of him. I guess it's just that in Akira Toriyama's take on the character, not whatever Toei wanted to do in the 90s. According to Toriyama, Bardock is much less of a vicious warrior and more of a kind of mean guy who also still cares about people. Which, it's what Toriyama wanted to do, let him do it. But here we get to see a lot more into that, which is when the day the Saiyans were destroying planet Cereal, Bardock found Granolah and his mother as they were cowering in fear, hiding away. And after seeing them, he decided, you know what? He'd save these two people. If they're all that's left, just let them live. There's no reason to just go after them. And they're also hiding out with this Namekian guy, Moneto. I'm pretty sure it was designed by Toriyama. It's cool. And this further ties into Granola's character arc about learning, hey, a Saiyan saved my life. And then also Goku and Vegeta find out that, hey, this was Goku's father, which is kind of probably the reason why Goku acts the way he does. He's maybe not the greatest hero in the world or anything, but he's still not a bad guy by any means. He's still a good person, especially Goku. And yeah, well, it's pretty straightforward. I really like the stuff we get out of Bardock here. Yeah, I do agree that maybe Goku remembering his parents isn't the best thing, but it's fine. I don't really care either way. And I thought it was cool to get to see an insight into the past like this. How the backstories of so many different characters all tie into each other. But then, of course, they're the true main villains of this arc, the Heaters. Yeah, their names are also pretty on the nose. I mean, okay, their last name is the Heaters, and they're named, what's the main one? He's Alec, and there's Mackie, I'm not really sure what that means, though, and Oil and Gas. Yeah, these are some pretty bad names, but I really like the Heaters as villains. One, it's interesting to have Dragon Ball villains that are basically the space mafia. That's something they haven't done yet, so it's a nice break from the super-powered alien tyrants and warlords and demons and whatever. But I also like how only really, since they are basically the space mafia, only one of them is the kind of villain the characters are actually going to fight. The other three just hang back. The one who fights is Gas. Because when we first meet the Heaters, Alec, the big guy, or tall big guy, tells Gas, don't worry, you're the strongest out of all of us. Even if Granolah ever tried to betray us, there's no way he could defeat you. But then when he hears that, hey, Granolah has made himself the universe's greatest warrior, he is terrified, because now he's thinking, hey, Granolah isn't just going to go after Frieza and the Saiyans, he's going to go after us too. So he uses the Dragon Balls to make Gas now the strongest in the universe, where he has to fight Granolah, Goku, and Vegeta. But as the heroes continue to get some kind of power up or more mastery of their powers, that means Granolah or Elec has to once again use the Dragon Balls to make Gas even stronger. But the stronger and stronger he becomes, the more of his life it drains. So by the end, he's basically a zombie. whose body can barely contain his power. And seeing Goku and Vegeta and Granolah all band together to fight this guy that just seems invincible. He's pretty much unkillable. Well, until the end, but even after they have this big, epic, flashy final attack. And yes, Gas survives, but it was intentional. Because Granolah tells them, the Heaters, hey, you're alive, but you're super beaten up and you don't stand a chance against us now. Just leave. But of course, Gas isn't going to leave. But before I get into what happens to him, you gotta talk about Goku and Vegeta, because I haven't really mentioned them yet, and they're, the main characters. I think what Goku and Vegeta get here is better than what they got in the Moro Saga. I appreciate what was done with them there, with them having to learn it's not necessarily about power, it's about mastery of techniques and being able to balance your power with your body, which we especially got a lot of with Vegeta, which I really liked. If only Vegeta had beaten the main villain, it would have felt more satisfying, but that's something else entirely. But here, it's okay. Goku and Vegeta are tricking you thinking, okay, we just have to fight this guy because he's evil. And then when they find out what's really going on, they start to question what's happening. And Vegeta, since he was actually remembers Planet Vegeta, shares some more insight about the Saiyan race and how he's kind of disgusted with Bardock, thinking, yeah, no wonder you're like that, Kakarot. Um, your sort of softness is inherited from your father. But then we also see how even Goku and Vegeta are the final members of the Saiyans. Well, aside from Broly, I guess, but whatever. But they aren't quite the same as the Saiyans that Granolah remembers. Granolah remembers them as vicious tyrants who are out to destroy planets, but but not only were they under the control of Frieza, it's not like every single Saiyan is like that. After all, a Saiyan saved his life, whether he remembers it or not. And this arc also continues Goku and Vegeta's development about learning how to master their powers. Goku is simply just, okay, he needs to continue mastering Ultra Instinct. He may have completed it once during the Tournament of Power, but he still didn't master it, because he was only able to do it once, and just barely anyway. But Vegeta gets his cool new Ultra Ego power, of which I really wish I didn't know about before I read the chapter where it's introduced, because it would have been a really great surprise. And it's awesome. I love how this arc begins with establishing that, well, Goku has been trained by Whis for a while. That's why he's gained Ultra Instinct. He's mastering the abilities of the angels. And while Vegeta was trained by Whis, he never really got the hang of that sort of thing. And now Beerus is telling him, hey, if Goku's going to learn the powers of the angels, I'm going to teach you the powers of the gods of destruction. So if Goku has Ultra Instinct, then Vegeta has Ultra Ego. And he says, yeah, sure. A power derived from instinct that has limits, but a power derived from ego is unbounded. And he says, my power has no limits! Until, he loses it at the last second, but whatever. Point is, this is just really cool. New form. I mean, one, it's a form that actually has meaning. It's not the same thing as Super Saiyan Blue, it's just, here's a cool looking new form, yeah. This has an actual reason in the story and ties into Vegeta's character arc, which I very much appreciate. But as great as all of this stuff was, I think what I'm going to remember most about the Granolah Saga is the ending. Let's talk Black Frieza. I knew this was coming. I'd seen the image of Black Frieza, but that was it. I knew he existed and nothing else. I didn't know what his introduction was, anything he did. So it was quite a shock to read that chapter where he finally shows up. Because we know that Granolah's wanted to destroy Frieza. But you hear Lex saying the reason he needed to make Gas so powerful is not just to defeat Granolah, but because he needed to defeat Frieza. And just as he's about to say that, Frieza shows up, because apparently he was called there by the Heaters because they said they had something important for him, which is really just a lie. They just wanted to use Gas to destroy Frieza, but that of course doesn't work because Frieza shows up, powers up into this new form, and then he really violently destroys Gas as he turns into a skeleton and just finally crumples to dust. Yeah, that was something. I wonder what Toriyama thought reading that. It's probably more violent than anything he ever did. I don't know. Well, I don't know, but anyway, it was pretty disturbing though. But as gas is destroyed, Frieza just tells the heaters, "Oh, you wanted to kill me, huh? Well, I know quite a lot about you, including the fact that," as he tells straight to Alex's face, "that the weakest of the heaters is you." And then he kills him, and he tells Mackie and Oil, "Hey, be my servants and I will destroy you." And they say, "Yeah, okay." But before he does that, or maybe a bit in between, Goku and Vegeta ask, "How could you become so powerful?" And he says, "Well, in one of my many conquered worlds, I found a chamber that exists in another dimension. I was able to fit in 10 years worth of training in a week, meaning that Frieza somehow found a room of spirit and time, powers up once more, beats up Goku and Vegeta, and then just leaves." But this also makes Goku and Vegeta wonder, hey, at the beginning of the arc, they were warned about the universe's strongest warrior, which they thought would be Granolah, because he literally wished for it. But if Frieza showed up, maybe that's him, and he just wasn't counted as the universe's greatest warrior because he was in another dimension training. But when they ask Whis this, he says, well, perhaps Frieza is the strongest warrior in the universe, but maybe the universe's strongest emerged elsewhere. When I read that, both first time, second time, I was just thinking, okay, now let me have the next saga immediately. I still really want to see where this goes. I don't think there's been a single cliffhanger in all of Dragon Ball that really got me this excited. Because, Toriyama's tragic passing, the manga has put on a huge hiatus. It is going to come back, but we don't know when. And right after the Black Frieza reveal, we don't get a continuation of that. No, we get an adaptation of the superhero movie. It would be one thing if they're just because they did some extra stuff that takes place before it, but then they go out of their way to adapt the entire movie, which takes multiple volumes. I know no one may have known it as it was coming out, but considering when you're like me and you knew Toriyama passed away and the manga was going to be put on serious hiatus, that means it just has to take even longer to see where this Black Frieza story goes, and that's a huge shame. But wherever it goes, I just hope it's really good. So yeah, I love the Granolah Saga. I think this is the best thing Dragon Ball has done since the Buu Saga. Is it as good as that? No, and it may not have quite the same kind of impact that, Classic and Dragon Ball Z did, but I don't know, I just think this was a really strong arc. Easily the best thing since Z. And yeah, I'd say it's pretty easily the best arc of Super. I like Super's other arcs, but they do not come close to this. I know this one's a bit more controversial, but I don't get it. This arc was great. And whenever the next volume of Dragon Ball Super finally comes out, I just hope to see the story continue in a satisfactory way. Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. That's all for now, and remember to stay way past cool.